Today, we're talking about a place that somehow manages to make you feel like a kid and question your fitness level at the same time. We're heading to Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. And listen, I know some of you are thinking, Katie, it's just sand. It can't really be that exciting. Wrong. You are wildly underestimating this place. This isn't just some random patch of sand. These are the tallest sand dunes in North America, rising up to about 750 feet. Picture a 75-story building made entirely of sand, and then imagine voluntarily climbing it. That's Great Sand Dunes. And the wild part, you're doing all of this with snow-capped mountains sitting casually in the background like it's no big deal. So, before we get into what to do there, let's talk about where you actually are because the context matters. Great Sand Dunes National Park is located in southern Colorado, just east of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. That means blood of Christ, which makes sense once you see the mountains glowing red and gold at sunset. Very dramatic, very main character energy. Now, the park itself is huge, nearly 150,000 acres. And here's where people get surprised. Despite its name, it's not just sand dunes. You've got wetlands, grasslands, forests, and alpine peaks all packed into one park. It's like Colorado said, why choose one ecosystem when we can have all of them? And even though it feels remote, the park gets about a 500,000 visitors every year. Now, by comparison, that's way fewer than places like Yellowstone. Most of these 500,000 visitors hang out near the base of the dunes by Medano Creek. But once you start walking deeper into the dune field, it gets quiet fast. Like just you, sand, and mountains quiet. Which brings us to timing, because when you go really matters here. For most people, spring through fall is ideal. April through October gives you moderate temperatures, and if you time it right, you'll catch Medano Creek flowing, which we'll talk about in a minute because it's one of my favorite features. Summer is doable, but fair warning, the sand can hit 150 degrees on the surface. That is not an exaggeration. If you're going in summer, hike early in the morning or later in the evening and wear shoes. Your feet will thank you. Winter is also an option. The park is open 24/7, 365 with no reservations needed. Yet winter is colder, the dunes can be icy, and it's definitely more of a choose your own adventure situation. The upside, almost no crowds. Now, quick logistics while we're here. Entrance is $25 per vehicle for 7 days, or just grab the $80 America the Beautiful Pass for all parks for the whole year. Pets are allowed, yet they must be leashed, and dogs can only go up to High Dune, not onto the interior dune field or up Star Dune. Okay, now let's talk about the dunes themselves because this is where things get unreal. The tallest dune here is Star Dune, which sits at about 750 feet. That makes it taller than the Great Pyramid of Giza. You are climbing something taller than one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, except this one is constantly moving and actively trying to humble you. So, yes, the dunes move. The Ute people call them Sawapmanachi, meaning sand that moves, because the wind reshapes them every year. Star Dune can actually shift by up to 50 feet annually, depending on wind patterns. So, the dune you climb today may not look the same next year. That alone is kind of magical. Now, here's where people really start questioning reality. Medano Creek. Medano is Spanish for sand dune. And at the base of these massive dunes, there's a seasonal creek that flows from late April through June, with peak flow usually in late May or early June. And it feels like someone dropped a beach into the middle of Colorado. I'm super fortunate to have been able to experience it when my dog Molly and I did a big road trip out west. Great Sand Dunes was one of our last stops in July. Medano Creek is wide, shallow, sandy, and perfect for wading after a dune hike. Kids build sandcastles, and adults sit with their feet in the water, questioning their life choices after climbing sand dunes for 3 hours. And then there's the surge flow, which is very rare and very cool. The sandy creek bed creates little temporary dams, water builds up behind them, and then suddenly many waves roll through. It's not surfing, but it feels like it when you're standing there. Pro tip, if you're hiking towards Star Dune, follow the creek bed south for about 2 miles. Wet sand is way easier to walk on than dry, loose sand. Now let's get to the fun part, sandboarding and sand sledding. Yes, you can absolutely slide down these dunes, and yes, it's just as fun as it sounds. It's not quite like snowboarding, sand has more friction, but if you wax your board and you pick a steep slope, you'll get some solid runs. You can rent boards at the Oasis store just outside the park or in nearby Alamosa. And listen, climbing back up is the real workout. You're not doing 20 runs unless you're built different. But even one good run, worth it. And yes, people wipe out, so film it. You'll want the memory. What a lot of people don't realize is that Great Sand Dunes isn't just about the dunes. Because of all those ecosystems, the wildlife here is surprisingly diverse. You might see kangaroo rats, mule deer, coyotes, elk, and over 200 species of birds. There's even a beetle species only found here, the Great Sand Dunes tiger beetle, built specifically to survive on hot, shifting sand. And then there's the night sky. This park is a designated international dark sky park, which means the stars are next level. On a moonless night, you can see the Milky Way clearly. Bring a blanket, a thermos, and just sit on the dunes after dark. The park even offers ranger led night programs and astronomy talks in summer, which are absolutely worth checking out. Now, I want to touch on the history here because this place has layers. People have lived in this area for about 11,000 years. The Ute, Apache, and Navajo all have deep cultural connections to this land. Blanca Peak, which is visible from the dunes, is one of the Navajo's four sacred mountains. The park was protected as a national monument in 1932 to prevent mining and eventually became a national park in 2004. Good, because the idea of mining these dunes for concrete feels criminal. All right, you know I love a good challenge. So here are a few challenges I have for you for when you visit to make your time there memorable. 1. Summit Star Dune at sunrise. The view is incredible. 2. Wade through Medano Creek if it's flowing, which means you need to time this right. 3. Sandboard or sled at least one big dune. 4. Spot 3 different wildlife species and take pics. And 5, count how many shades of sand you notice. You'll be surprised. Tag me in any of these pictures if you do them. I want to see it. Now, quick pro tips before you go. Bring more water than you think you need. Wear real shoes, not flip-flops. Dress in layers to avoid the sun. Use sunscreen and consider trekking poles for the hikes. And if you bring Fido, make sure you pack extra water and some booties so that paw pads don't get burned. I've linked all my favorite Great Sand Dunes gear in the description, and those links help support this podcast. If you've got extra time, nearby stops like Zapata Falls, the San Luis Valley Hot Springs, or a scenic train ride out of Alamosa make this an easy 2 to 3 day adventure. Well, there you have it, Great Sand Dunes National Park. Way more than just sand. It's challenging, surreal, beautiful, and honestly one of the most unique landscapes in the US. Have you been? What was your favorite part? I would love to hear from you. Find me on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and send me a message. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can follow along and dream big for your journeys on The Great Escape. See you next time, adventurers.